West
Mr.
Virginia.
President, first of all, I want to thank my colleague and for working so hard on this. It affects Indiana, it affects West Virginia, it affects North Dakota, it affects every state in the union. And I just hope people realize what's going on here. And it's not a partisan issue. It shouldn't be. This is definitely a bipartisan issue. It affects everybody in our state. I want to thank Senator Markey for allowing me to go for a few minutes. I've got a funeral in Arlington to attend, one of our dear soldiers. I've spoken at the Senate floor many times before on the burdens that the EPA has continued to impose on hardworking families and hardworking people in West Virginia. Today, however, I'm not speaking on the mining jobs I spoke about so much. I'm speaking about everyday West Virginia. If you have any property whatsoever, if you have a small business or a large business, if you come from any walk of life, if you're in agriculture, a small farmer or large agriculture, this affects you. This allows the overreach of the government, which we've talked about for so many times. If you're a government agency, if you're a city, a small town, if you're a county, any decisions you make will be affected or could be affected. If imposed, the agency's Waters of the United States rule, known as WOTUS, would have a harmful impact all over this great country. Again, WOTUS rule would not just impact certain industries, it impacts everybody. And the EPA wrote and finalized this rule without even consulting with some of the people who care about clean water the most, everyday West Virginians and Americans all over this great country. The WOTUS rule would impose heavy financial penalties on all of us, including our small business owners, farmers, manufacturers, and property owners. If you've ever seen the terrain of West Virginia, we're the most mountainous state east of the Mississippi. I mean, there is very little flat land whatsoever. So anything can be affected, and everybody will be affected. Whether you build a home, whether you have a small business, whether you're a little city or community, it's going to be affected. And if they can show an aerial map that there used to be a river or a stream of any kind, that comes under their jurisdiction. So anybody that thinks differently, it's not going to happen. This is exactly what's going to happen, and that's why all of these small towns, the counties of rural America is totally opposed to this. There's nobody that I know of that doesn't want clean water, clean drinking water. Nobody. And with that, we're not saying that the federal government shouldn't have oversight on all of our waters that are drinking and are navigable and are recreational. In fact, I live on the water, so I know what it is to have the clean waters in our streams and rivers and all that. This is not what we're talking about. As my good friend here from Indiana and my good friend from North Dakota is going to be talking about, this affects everybody. It affects every puddle, every ditch, every runoff. You name it, it affects it. And that means it affects all of our lives. And they're going to say, oh, don't worry, we're not going to do that. We're going to exempt it. Yeah, oh yeah. We've heard that one before, until it's something they don't like, until it basically gives them a chance to shut something down. I've got farmers right now that are concerned about basically the crops they grow, the wildlife, the poultry, if it would be, or any type of livestock that they have to care to, that all of this could be under effect. We fought this before. So the only thing I'm saying is that the Supreme Court instructs us to clarify the Clean Water Act jurisdiction over bodies of water use. This proposal goes too far. In fact, the Supreme Court has already ruled that not all bodies of water fall under the Clean Water Act regulations. So why are they expanding? If they've already ruled on it, why are they expanding these rules? Why do they believe they can grab this? They claim they were not required to consult with local governments under the federalism executive order, arguing that the rule did not impact them. The EPA claims that even though it did not comply with the executive order, it still reached out to local governments. That's not true. That is not true in West Virginia, I can tell you that. The EPA claims that it addressed the concerns of local governments by providing exemptions for public safety ditches and stormwater control systems. That is not true either. So with that being said, I can only tell you what my citizens, my communities, my business owners, my local governments are being affected by and why they're concerned. The bottom line is that it's completely unreasonable that our country's ditches, puddles, and other unnavigable waters be subjected to the same regulations as our greatest lakes and rivers, which we all agree. The WOTUS rule exempts ditches only if a local government can prove, that our country can prove that no part of the entire length of a ditch is located in an area where there used to be a stream. The WOTUS rule exempts stormwater management systems only if they were built on dry land. The WOTUS rule says EPA can rely on historical maps and historical aerial photographs to determine where the streams used to be, not where they are now. These provisions of WOTUS rules should strike terror into the heart of every mayor, county commissioner, and manager of a city that was founded before the last century. This is how asinine this is. It's unbelievable. With a sweep of the pen, the EPA is trying to take us back to the days of Lewis and Clark. According to a memo written in April, not even the Corps of Engineers knows how it will determine which ditches are exempt and which are former streams. This is our own government. Morgantown, West Virginia was founded in 1785. Wheeling, West Virginia was established in 1795. To go back in time to determine where streams used to be would be near impossible. I don't want West Virginia cities to have to worry about the status of their municipal infrastructure. There is no question that an additional permitting and regulatory requirements, implementation of this rule will place a significant burden on West Virginia's economy, which is already hurting very badly. That includes businesses, manufacturing, housing, and energy production. Many in my home state are already struggling to make ends meet. As you know, we're one of the highest unemployed states, been hit hardest by any other state, and we're fighting like the Dickens, and we will continue to fight, and we will persevere. The new financial and regulatory burden will set them up for failure in an already unstable economic climate, which in large part is caused by harmful regulations the EPA and administration have established. We all want to drink clean water, as we stated, and breathe clean air, but we can achieve this without regulating hardworking Americans out of business, and this rule represents broad overreach that has forced of law without congressional approval. I just said, basically, you can't regulate what's not been legislated. Why are we here? Why are we elected to represent the people when we can't even do it? When we have to fight our own government to do the job that we have been charged with doing. So I urge my colleagues to support this motion to proceed to Senate Bill 1140. Thank you, and I yield the floor.